What's up, Havelock? Welcome back to podcast numero dos. Thanks for joining us. I hope you liked our first one that we put out here recently with our base CO. Today, I'm excited to have sitting here your new police chief, Mike Broadwell. Mike, welcome.
Thanks, man. Good to be here.
So the goal today is we're going to get to know this guy a little bit. You guys all should know your police chief, and I know you've got to know the last few, and you'll have an opportunity with him individually coming up soon. We'll talk about that at the end of the podcast. But for now, what I want you to know is who your chief is and kind of what his vision is for the city of Havelock and for our police department. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Mike, I'm going to jump right into it, man, because I think you're a pretty interesting guy, and I think the city needs to know a little bit more about you. So let's start with your journey. I do know you're a mountaineer. You're a Appalachian State, that's where you went to college?
Yeah, I did. Appalachian State University.
And just a side question, while you were there, did they win any of those divisional state championships?
No, we were not very good back then, but
it was
still fun to go to the games, but they weren't dominating.
Because they're brutal, man. They're so good, especially for their size. Matter of fact, you spent some time in Greenville as a police officer. We'll talk about that in a second, but they beat ECU a couple times.
Oh yeah. And when they won their big game against Michigan, I had already left Boone, so I didn't get to experience that.
Ah, bummer.
Yeah.
So, man, your trajectory. First thing that I think everybody always wants to know, because I think law enforcement is such an interesting and changing field. Did you always want to be a police officer, man? Were you like the 10-year-old with the badge and the hat?
Not really. So here's the funny part. Most kids my age grew up watching Cops. So it was always fun to watch. I'm sure you probably watched it.
Bad boys.
Man, it was so fun. But when I went to college, I ended up actually majoring in recreation management. So
really?
I was into outdoors, backpacking, skiing. That's what I was into, hunting, fishing. And so my recreation management was my major at Appalachian State. I loved it. I got to do all kinds of things. We traveled. I did a week-long trip in the high country of Colorado, living in igloos we built. They called Quincy's, but, just amazing stuff. And so I actually did a internship with Grandfather Mountain, where I worked in the animal exhibits. And so I got to take care of the bears and the eagles and the deer, and got to just experience all that. And kind of at the end, I was a kind of a park ranger position. And I started looking at state park ranger jobs. I'm like, man, I can't make any money. I'm gonna be so broke. But I still had the interest in law enforcement. Criminal justice was my minor, so I'd had a background in it. And so I said, well, maybe I could be a park ranger and still enforce law. And it just didn't work out. The money wasn't right. I was like, man, I don't want to be broke forever. So I'll just be broke being a police officer instead. So that so I kind of ventured into the law enforcement aspect. As soon as I graduated from Appalachian, I went to the academy.
I was going to say, man, it's not like law enforcement is known for making wealthy individuals, right?
Yeah.
It's still a level of service from the heart, man.
It is. It's a marathon, not a sprint. So it's a slow ride all the way for the 30 years here in North Carolina.
And you're from North Carolina, which I mean, y'all probably recognize that by the way he's talking. He talks just like all the rest of us from Eastern North Carolina. So tell him where you're from.
Yeah, from Wilson, North Carolina.
Wilson, right up the road, man.
Wide Awake Wilson.
My favorite boat. I've had it for probably 15 years. Kencraft, made right there in Wilson, man.
Absolutely, that's what they're known for.
Yeah. So you have been at multiple departments around the city, and I mean around the state, and they've been all different size cities.
Yeah.
Right. So Greenville, Washington. Talk about a little bit about size, because now you've kind of shrunk a little bit. Our department's a little smaller than some of those.
Yeah, it's interesting because Boone was a very similar sized town. Back in the late 90s, early 2000s, they would say 12,000 population plus another 12,000 students. That population has grown now, but we had about 25 officers at the time. I only worked there about 2.5 years, and ended up transferring and going down to Greenville, North Carolina, where I worked about 14 years there. Significantly more population. We had, I think the official population's in the 90-something thousand range. You had 20 to 30,000 college students. So it's just a lot going on in Greenville. Stayed there for 14 years, and when I left, we were up around 200 officers.
Wow.
And
And what rank were you then?
I left as a lieutenant.
Okay, so gotcha. That's what I thought.
I worked a variety of jobs there. Everybody starts as a patrol officer. That's pretty much a given. I did patrol. I did police K-9. Worked at K-9 for 4 years till my dog retired. Loved every minute of it. Had a passion for dogs. I worked a street level narcotics and violent crime suppression unit. Did that for about 4 years, where we worked the downtown bars and clubs. We worked some street level narcotics, and anywhere we had bad crime, gang problems, we kind of worked those areas too. And after that, I stepped in the supervisory role. So I got promoted through the corporal position on patrol, sergeant position on patrol, and then did some admin work with lieutenant until I took a position with Washington, North Carolina, as a patrol captain. Spent 5.5 years there, and this opportunity came along, and I jumped on and got really fortunate to be able to be selected as a chief and come over here.
Notice he said Washington, North Carolina, because all of us that grew up here call that Little Washington.
Yeah.
They don't like that in Washington.
Yeah, it's funny.
They don't like that.
I used to call it that too, but I got there and none of the locals call it Little Washington.
Yeah.
So I just kind of
You
adjusted.
just merge over.
Yeah.
I bet you saw some stuff in G Vegas. We love Greenville, but man, I bet you saw some stuff in G Vegas.
Greenville is an interesting place because everybody thinks about the college, but there's so many aspects of Greenville. You got this huge medical area, so you got a lot of people coming to town just for medical services. You got the college, 25,000, 30,000 students there now. You got big football games, 50,000 people coming to a football stadium.
And it's all of Eastern North Carolina that comes in for that.
Oh, yeah, everybody loves it.
My mom graduated there, my sister, my brother-in-law, all my uncles, my wife's master's degree, and they, you want to go to a football game in Eastern North Carolina and you want to go to a good one, where are you going to go, right?
You go to Greenville. And then Halloween comes and you're 18 to 20, 22, 23 years old, you got to go downtown. So,
absolutely.
So, we had that element, absolutely, but then we had a crime element too. So there was a lot going on in Greenville, a lot of moving parts every day.
I got you. And so now you're here in Havelock, so I think the big question, not to put you on the spot, man, what have you seen in our people? Like what when you walked in and you started meeting our folks and seeing how they operate, to give us some first impressions.
Yeah, you got a small town feel. You got a city management that was very open, very welcoming, friendly. You got the board of commissioners. It's going to take me a while not to say city council because I'm stuck, my brain's stuck on that. But commissioners, super nice. They come up and hug your neck when you walk in. It's a different hometown feel than some of the other cities I've worked for. So that's great. And then at the same time, you've got the public that seems to love their law enforcement. I've been in places that didn't always love their law enforcement officers, and here y'all put me in the Christmas parade like my first couple weeks here.
Right, like day 12.
Threw me right in there, and I'm riding down the road, and I got my window down, a little sign on the car, and I'm waving to folks, and everybody's saying, "Hey, Chief, welcome to welcome to Havelock. We're happy to have you here." So as I'm riding down the road, people are welcoming me, so it's great.
That's cool. And now we've got a pretty young force right now. Like you've got some veterans in leadership positions, but you got a young force. What do you see about that?
Yeah, so that's one of the first things that the captain and command staff showed me. They gave me a piece of paper with everybody's name and their hire date on it. And so I'm going through and looking. And, on patrol, we've got a lot of 1 and 2 year officers. And so everybody says that's a young department. That's kind of what it's referred to. But at the same time, I see it as it's an opportunity. A lot of young officers are excited to be at work. They're not burnt out. They're not grumpy and disgruntled yet, like some veteran officers can get. And so they're eager to learn. They're eager to train, and they're eager to do their job. So it just kind of reminds me of when I was a young officer. I couldn't wait to go to work. I loved it. And so I see a lot of that in these younger officers.
In 2024, if you are choosing to be in law enforcement, you have to believe in it because it's not an easy profession. I'm not going to say it ever was, but you seeing what's happened across the country and the world, and law enforcement, you really got to have your heart in it. You're not doing that for a paycheck. You're not doing it just to have a job. And so, when young people want to do that, I think that's fantastic. It does bring its own challenges. So when you look at the future and you think about, and you've only been here since end of November,
right? So
you haven't had a lot of time. But I know that you've already been calculating what does the future look like for Havelock for you and kind of directions for our department to grow. So my question is this. You don't have to give us any specifics because I'm sure you're rolling it out with your team.
Yeah.
Are we going to see big changes in the department as far as our citizens can see? Or we're talking about tweaking things to move in a different vision or the same vision? Or what's kind of your thought on that?
Right. That's the question command staff down to know too. But we've been having those conversations, and I think they're going to be seeing some good changes. And I will tell you, getting here, the command staff prior to my arrival have done a great job. I got here. You never know what you're going to get when you walk into a new place. And I came in, and the training was up to date and doing good. The equipment's up to date, squared away. Young officers, I've been told about the turnover. There's some things that we'll talk about and address. But overall, I walked into a good position. So I've got a few things that I think the citizens will probably notice. One that they won't notice is training. So the officers here are trained and trained well, but we just want to completely double down on it. And so we actually had a meeting yesterday. We laid out our training calendar for the year. We whiteboarded the whole thing yesterday. And we got through 6 months, and we've already doubled our in-person training than what they did last year. And we've only sketched it out for 6 months. So my goal, 100 to 200% increase in person, realistic, hands-on training. That's what I shouldn't say younger because people think of age, but newer officers, that's what they need, is just hands-on, back to the basics training. They're still getting their online in-service. They're still getting their computerized classroom stuff, but we got to get them, hands-on stuff. And so that's my big goal for patrol. The next one is the community. So, the community policing has kind of been the catchphrase for years now, but we really just call it community engagement because it's what we're doing. We're just engaging with the community. And I just really want to step that up. The city has done a great job. I know they've done National Night Out. We just did Shop with a Cop last month. Great turnout. That was amazing. And so I just want to build on it. I'm like, guys, y'all are doing a good job. Let's just take it to the next level. So I've got a lot of ideas that I want to get into. It takes a little while to roll these things out because you want to kind of slow roll them. But, I've already had discussions on, have you guys ever had citizen police academies before? You ever had, youth academies? Have you? I know we've done some different type of things with neighborhood watches, but I got a different spin on it. And so there's a lot of things that I really want to roll out, and I think the community is going to start seeing us out there more, and they'll get to engage more with us, and actually not just know me, but they'll get to know even the newest officer by name.
That's good. So think big, act small, right? Which is kind of a recipe for success. So you got these big ideas y'all be rolling out slowly over time, and can you get enough training as a police officer? I would say no, right? There's always something to learn.
It never stops. And even when you're getting trained, you want to continuously hone them skills. And so whether it's the fun stuff, the shooting and the driving and that kind of stuff, that's all fun, but it's a skill that you got to continue to train or you will lose it. Just shooting by itself, if you shoot a lot, your numbers just go way up, and as soon as you stop, they slowly start trickling back down.
So it's interesting you say that, because your firearms trainer, who's one of your veterans over there that's been leading the department in lots of ways for a lot of years, used a phrase that I love and I still use all the time, which is it's a perishable skill.
Absolutely.
Right? And so you think about anything you do, whether it's shooting, where they have to drive different than regular people have to drive, and everything that they do, their engagement, their customer service, their building trust with the community, like it's all perishable skills. You don't exercise them, they fall away. And
Absolutely.
Those skills are too important to our citizens to see them start to lag or to be perishable.
Sure, and these officers have to wear so many hats. They've got to be able to shoot their firearms great, but how often do we use them? Hopefully never.
That's right.
How often do they get in car chases? Hopefully never, but occasionally. So those are the high priority things that we've got to get right. But the reality is, what are we really dealing with? We're dealing with people with mental illness. We're dealing with drunk drivers. We're dealing with youth that have intentionally run away, and we're trying to find them. Those are the everyday aspects. So we got to be good at a wide variety of things.
Yeah, in today's world, police officers got to do a lot of things. Absolutely. Now, I know the training thing doesn't surprise me, Mike, because one thing that I've learned about you a little bit in your talk when you got to promote recently is that you're encouraging your leadership to think about things differently. And you are a fan of, we were talking about podcasts earlier,
sure,
right?
Yeah.
So you listen to podcasts, you read books, you're kind of you want to grow individually, and you're encouraging your officers to do that. So I heard that they've got this extreme accountability books. That's the Jocko book, right?
Jocko book. He's got a lot of books out. Extreme Ownership is
Extreme
one
Ownership,
that
that's the one.
Yeah, in my last department, I pushed that book to all my sergeants and supervisors. Like, you guys read this, and we need to start implementing some stuff. And this is all of our police officers, as they start moving up in rank, they all go to leadership classes. But this military book really just it talks a lot about different phases, but the one point is take ownership in everything you do. So whether it's from the newest guy that starts tomorrow, he's got to own it all that he can control, up to the highest person in command, which would be me at the time. if he fails, it's my fault. So we have got to take extreme ownership in everything that we can control in our department. And so I've pushed that out. We just promoted a new sergeant last week. You were there, and I gave her a copy of my book. I was like, read it, give it back to me. I want it back. Mm-hmm. So, but I'll get her another one if she wants it. But that's one of them things I've tried to explain when it comes to retention and recruiting. That's what we're struggling with. Every department in the state is struggling with retention and recruiting of officers. And so when I talked to the department brand new, I was like, when I first got here, I said, this is your department. You are the ones that have to help me hire your backup and your partners. It's on me, but it's on you as well. You got to take ownership of that. And so, within the first, I think, 2 weeks, I had opened up a voluntary committee for hiring and retention. So I got 5 people that volunteered. And no command staff's allowing that. This is just boots on the ground folks. And so I was like, what does this department need? How can we hire people? How can we retain them? Give me your tips. Give me your wish list. And we're going to try to make it happen.
That's awesome. All right, so what do you guys need to know at the city? So here's what I heard from the new chief. You got a man who's trying to build an effective team, a team that's going to work together, take extreme ownership of everything that they do. And that includes, as you heard from him, being really good at their job, training, education, working hard at who they are as police officers, right?
Absolutely.
And then adding on to that, taking extreme ownership in building the trust with the community and maintaining the trust that we already have, which, when you see our police officers at National Night Out and you see them at music in the park, movies in the park, they're not there to scare you, man. They're there to talk to you. They're there to find out what's going on. They're there to enjoy a little bit of music while they're on shift. I know we've got them going to schools, even though we're not in them anymore, and they talk to the kids.
Yep,
that stuff's all real important. Chief wants to be accessible to you guys as well. So if you want to get a hold of him, there are lots of ways to do it. If you have any questions for him or his team, because he's got a team standing by ready to assist any of our citizens, you can get them. We got phone numbers at City Hall, emails, go on our website. Probably Jack will put some information up on the screen for you so you can see what those phone numbers and emails are. You can always get a hold of me. Y'all know how to do it. Email on the website. You can call City Hall. I got appointments on Mondays. But just to save the date, and we don't have a date yet, so I shouldn't say it. Save the opportunity. That's what we're going to do. We're going to save the opportunity. We will be doing an event where we officially swear the chief in, and we do it as a community at the Torsen Event Center. And he'll be up there to give you guys a little bit of a message about Havelock, and you guys can ask him whatever you want. We'll have some refreshments, and he'll wander around through the crowd and be happy to meet anybody who wants to come meet him. Date to be determined. We won't get deep in the weeds on the fact that we're waiting on the state of North Carolina, Justice and Standards, but they're overwhelmed right now. We're waiting on some paperwork. Once that's finished, we'll do this official event. You guys can come meet the chief. Until then, just a little tidbit today of what to look forward to. Mike, thanks for being on here with us, man.
Yeah, it's been great.
Yeah, and if you guys have a specific topic you want to talk about, shoot us an email, let us know. If you want to talk more with the chief, we can make that happen too. Y'all have a great day.